Hello and welcome to TRILL Sessions, or is it? I'm Steve Price, your co-host. Next to me somewhere on screen is Andy Pyra, co-founder and chief commercial officer of Lucky Sons. All right, Andy? You all right?
Yeah, I don't want to be a co-host.
Oh, what do you want to be then?
I just want to sit and listen and talk. I don't.
All right, fuck
I'm
it.
not a good host.
Well, all right, fine. You're not.
You didn't clear that with me. You didn't clear that with me.
You didn't even offer me a coffee today when I came to yours. So I had
you
to bring
bought
my
me
own.
one.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. So this is actually our first show with real guests. It was only fitting to do our first proper episode with the two people who we chose to do our first ever exclusive Lucky Sons interview with. So we'd like to welcome.
Yasha's loving it right now.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so. What is going on?
We'd like to welcome from Quick Stop F1 Podcast the queen of F1 punditry herself, Tandy, and self-confessed F1 nerd Nasha. Welcome to the show, people. How are you? Hello, nice to meet you. Welcome. How? I'm just going to cut out really, really quickly. How does it feel to be on the other side of the table? You're on mute.
Feels like
Nasha's left.
It could be spicy.
Where's Nasha gone?
If you guys can hear
I
me.
think his Wi-Fi's gone.
But yeah.
You might have to.
Here he is.
Oh, here he is.
Hello.
He's back.
Sorry about that.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah,
He's
no,
back.
like honestly,
He did that on purpose.
No, not at all, not at all. I just went to get my rhyme book out, and I thought we were gonna battle rap, so I thought let me get my rhyme book out and I'll get it done. But no, I heard everything you guys said. Thank you for having us on. It's nice to. I was actually saying or thinking I never get to have a round of applause. Like I'm normally the one, even at the live shows. Thank you. I need that. Even at the live shows, I have to be the one that introduces everything to everyone, and so no one gets to clap for me because I just go up and be like, "Oh, hi guys, shall we get it started?" And then I introduce Tandy, and everyone's like, "Wow, Tandy's here!" So it's really nice to have like some appreciation and round of applause. So thank you.
But you do it so well.
welcome.
You do it so well. And we love
You know.
You are a good compare. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig.
It is a tough gig being, the compare on your own platform. But yeah, no, for sure. It's good. I'm really happy. Glad to be here with you guys, three of my favorite people in the whole world. So yeah, looking forward
bless
to
you
it.
both. Bless you.
So right off the bat, we've kind of changed things around a little bit because, we like to kind of respond. And Andy and I got talking about this and we thought, why not address a bit of an elephant in the room and make it really awkward really early on in this conversation? Yeah. Because Lucky Sons, let's just put this out there, never intentionally set out to disrespect anyone's culture. Everything we're trying to do is with the best of intentions to celebrate and respect cultures. But we listen, we take things on board. I'm going to read this tweet out anyway, because I felt like it sparked a conversation with Andy and I this afternoon. And we were both like, I think we just need to bring it up because we got a tweet and you probably saw it because it was from Top Bananas 48. And I think he just made a really salient point. And it kind of, this and another message we got the other day, I was like, Andy, I think we've really got to talk about this. He wrote, in regard to Lucky, not sure who came up with the name for the sessions, but since following the movement, some things stand out and come off borderline questionable. Hence why I'm saying tread lightly, which I felt was like, it was a good point. I was a little bit scared when I read it and I was like, okay, then address it we will. Is calling this TRILL, is that an issue?
I'm from St. Albans, Hertfordshire, so like I don't even know if I'm. Tandy's more American than me.
I'm not American, but when
and be honest, not that you wouldn't
when I
be, but...
saw the tweet in particular, I hope you actually embed it. I actually came up with a bunch of names for you anyway, new names.
Ooh.
I feel like in my head.
This is like more work than you've done for our platform.
That's crazy. That is insane.
This is
crazy. That's
crazy.
an insane comment because I was going to bring it up anyway, so I'm glad you brought it up.
100.
When I googled what trill means, because I actually don't know what it means myself, because I think trill comes from like Ebonics or Black culture, basically Black American culture. It means it's a combination of true and real, I think.
Yeah, true and real. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's being used when I can remember trill popped up. It was during like swag notes days, if anyone knows swag notes. Very much Tumblr, kids with snapbacks. So very much hip hop culture. So calling this trill sessions would make sense by the book. However, I feel like trill sessions being said by a team that everyone kind of knows is headed by two white guys, really cool white guys, hi guys, does not work. It doesn't work, unfortunately. However, it's better that you guys address these stuff with yourself so early on. And because so many brands are approached with stuff like this, like, we don't like this, and they'll completely ignore it and, put out a statement and say, like, we had no harm, but continue with the name. So the fact that you guys have acknowledged that, it might have been a miss on that side, is fine.
Well, Lucky Sun sessions it is there, Steve, isn't it?
But
I think this is important for us, right? So this is one of those scenarios where when I started this, okay, before Steve come on board, I had this thing. Some things we're going to do are going to work. Some things we're going to do aren't going to work. We were going to have a lot of fun doing it, but I don't want to piss people off at the same time. The reason for calling it Trill were for the reasons that you actually just highlighted, Tandy. And so we come in with this with the best intentions because, yes, it's three white guys that have founded it, but we wanted to create a team that appeals to the communities that we basically want to sort of bring good fortune to and further. Everything that we do is with that in mind, and we've got to get across what Lucky Suns is, and this is one of the ways of doing it. You have something named Trill, then okay, so is that for our community? Is that for our culture? Maybe it is. I'll go check it out. But we certainly don't do it to disrespect any cultures. We do it with the utmost respect, to be honest. And it is something that's been sort of beginning to creep in, especially regarding Trill, and especially regarding what we're trying to do as Lucky Suns, is that there are a handful, because we don't have a massive audience.
It's not a handful. It's two.
Was it two? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, right now, 2 is probably too much.
It is.
So, but at the same time, I also feel that we're doing this with the best intentions, as I keep on saying. But if it's pissing people off, then we revert back to something normal, maybe.
On the record.
I don't know.
Yeah,
on the record.
On the record. I feel like you have your branding where you have the vinyl playing. Cool. On the record. Everything said on the record, you're recording it. I thought this through.
Awesome.
Maybe, on your creative side, if you're trying to appeal to communities, hire people in those communities, approach those people in the communities, always helps. It's the most easiest way of crowd searching, is the word?
Yeah, audience research, right? This is one of the things that we find quite difficult, is that, as we've always stated, we've never got a release of funds because we've never had a team to release funds into. Regardless of how much money has been sort of officially committed. Consequently, if we were to start approaching people and say, look, do you mind doing this for free? Then that feels a little bit grubby to us, because then that's more sort of, well, you're taking the piss even more out of us now.
Yeah.
So we're sort of stuck in between a rock and a hard place.
Well, also, we don't have an audience yet. Let's be honest. I mean, we've got a smattering of people who, very kindly kind of follow us on, some of the social channels. So we are between a rock and a hard place. But Nasha, I wondered if you had some thoughts. I mean, I know you do.
Wow.
Do you agree with what
I would say, yeah, of course. I think, so for me, obviously, Trill kind of reminds me of like Bun B, Pimp C, kind of like that southern hip hop kind of slang. And that's kind of how I was introduced to it. And I think the era and that's like a bit before the era that you're talking about, which is probably when the word Trill was like commodified into what we saw on like the Tumblr and et cetera, et cetera. So I think for me, whenever I see something like that, yeah, it definitely kind of reminds me of like Southern hip hop and those kinds of things. And I think, yeah, but I think, I think it's awesome that you guys have like acknowledged it. And look, if we, there's a bag of stuff that we used to do that we don't do anymore, bag of stuff that we used to say or how we used to act that we don't do anymore. I'm not going to say what they are. I'm not going to say, but just in terms of how we are, I would like to think that as a brand, as much as we are this kind of brand that is very outspoken, pardon me, very outspoken and very forthright with our views and very like partisan, I think there's things that we were saying in the first year of us having a platform that we wouldn't dream of saying now. And there's things, well, if we did, we'd bleep it out, Tandy. So I think, it's just about, this is what it's like when you're starting a brand, and you have that maturation of your brand, and you find things that work. I think Andy, me and you were talking about a certain interview. We won't say whose interview, but we were talking about watching this person's interview on Breakfast Club, and they were asking him about a music video that they done, and that person said, they're like, this music video is so bad. Why? And he's like, oh, it's supposed to be bad, but also, you don't like the album, fine. Like you won't like everything that I do. Not everything that I do will hit. Not everything I do will be successful. Not everything I do will come across. But that's part of being creative. If you don't say to everyone, if you don't do, then you won't know. You can theorize everything in your head, and you can have ideas of this will work or this will work or this will work, but until you actually do it and you actually see it through, and then you're able to improve and modify, then you'll never know. So I think the hardest part of doing anything creative is starting. Everything after that is just modification and evolution. So it's nothing to be ashamed of, and I think what is really cool is that you guys are really, I think you're about action in terms of, you really do want to embrace and champion and highlight, people of color, especially in the content creator space. But obviously, obviously the conversations we've had on the podcast, you want to do that in the F1 space as well, in the engineering space, in the whole team across the globe, and with the outreach program. So it's a small hitch. If we got upset every time someone told us that something we done wasn't right, then we wouldn't have a podcast. So it's I think it is what it is. That's part of building a brand. What I will say is cut that music at the beginning, please. Don't do that. As your friend, like that.
I like the music. I was enjoying
I did
it.
not. No, that sounded like.
You weren't feeling it.
So when you're in music class and you're on the keyboard and you just play like hip hop 1,
That's
and then you have like hip hop 2.
You can't come on these people's platform and just rip them to shreds. That's not allowed.
I thought, no, you can. You can.
It's an honest conversation. I thought this was the circle of trust. I thought that's what
you absolutely can.
That's what we do. I want you guys to. I want you guys to win, and I want you guys to come across the best. And honestly, again, you look at our first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes, and you look at our episodes now, and you look at what the YouTube looks like from then to now. You look at how our shorts look from then to now. Like, they are worlds apart, because some of the stuff that we're doing, needed improving. So, as your friends, and I would say people that we really respect and admire, just get rid of that music in the beginning.
But I like this type of conversation, because I do.
It's good.
Not just because it's honest, but because it shows that we've started at ground zero, and we're going to make mistakes. We're not ashamed to admit it, and we're not embarrassed to show it either. And so getting our hands slapped on our own podcast, by the way.
But that's good.
I'm down with that. I'm all good with that.
That shows that you guys are open.
like any startup. The worst thing a startup can do, and I've worked with a few of them, is they spend an age trying to refine things in their own bubble, and they don't push things out there. The one thing that we have to do, because at the moment it's, sleeves rolled up, let's just get shit done, and get it out there and test it. And this hasn't really been a test. This has been, we haven't got what we need to do right now. So let's just do our own series and start talking to people that we really want to talk to. We will scurry away and change the name and give Tandy the credit, because on the record, I quite like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really happy with that.
You should work in branding. In fact, Andy, fire me, hire Tandy. That's it. There you go. I've always said I should be replaced.
That was easy.
I didn't think it would be this early, but that's where we're at. So, all right, let's move on. I was just curious to know if you guys have you been complaining to the FIA about alleged information being shared between Formula One team principal and a member of FOM, and if you haven't, have you got a statement? Because it seems everybody else has released a statement today. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of who the heck has been chatting shit. Have you got a statement?
You know what? If I knew that all it took was a bogus article to get these guys to investigate shit, then I would have been writing articles in 2021. 2 years ago, mate. But unfortunately, no. I don't know. I haven't. I don't know. Maybe Tandy. Tandy's a journalist amongst us, so you know, if it was anyone, it would have been her with the inside scoop.
What's your take on this?
I think, how is Susie being recode for having a husband, and a certain teams on the grid own two teams? Certain people on the grid literally own two teams, which is crazy. I think misogyny is rife in Formula One, and that was just another example. And I really liked how all the women kind of immediately rallied around Susie and said, because we already know these themes, we've heard these themes, we've heard these keywords. And so, like, even yesterday when I was on Twitter and I was on the Quick Stop Twitter, I was only actually like retweeting women, because not that men who are allies do not matter, but in this conversation, this is literally because she's a woman. That is, it's so obvious. Do you know what I mean?
I think you are right. Because I look at it, and I don't like going back to our bid all the time, but at the moment it's kind of all we got, right? But and it's very sort of, and this is one of the problems that people fish in the same pond. There are people that work for the FIA that go and work for new bidders. There are people that work for the FIA that go and work for Ferrari or any team on the grid.
Vice versa.
Yeah, and it seems to be a bit of an issue because there's no sort of new blood. Everybody's going after the same people, and this again, they're not being picked up on it. But it just so happens that Susie is married to Toto, and it's turned into a female thing. And
do you know what's really,
really quite grubby.
Do you know what's really interesting about that article, though? I saw a picture of it. Someone had scanned it. Given that you are a bona fide journalist, Andy, did you notice that there isn't a byline? There's no name on that article. Not a journalist, not a source. There's nothing. They haven't even put their name to it. And it's just like,
and
that's
why?
sketchy
Because
as
who
fuck.
wrote it? Was it a combination of people?
Yeah.
It's weird and sketchy. That's very sketchy. I didn't even notice that, Steve. That's
I
crazy.
zoomed in.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I think people have pointed out in the same publication that they had kind of bashed W Series, I think, or F1 Academy for not marketing the women in like a more sexy way.
Celebrating the sex appeal.
Exactly. Something along those lines, you know, kind of showing them in their fireproof overalls compared to other women athletes who maybe have had photo shoots, I guess, for their own PR rather than, you know, it's not like the WTA have just got like all of the tennis players lined up in bikinis. Like, so I think it's just, it's not a reputable source of news that any of us kind of look for. You know, we all know the kind of reputable journalists that we look out for to know that if something should, like, I'll kind of wait for Andrew Benson from the BBC to write about it, amongst others, so I know, okay, at least this is someone who's got like credibility, something to lose by writing false things and so forth. So, you know, I think it's just
bit out.
Yeah, I think it's just crazy that it got taken as seriously as it did by the FIA.
Right, so Quick Stop F1, for those not in the know, put them in the picture. Who are you? What do you do? And what made you start Quick Stop F1?
Is that me? Or...
Yeah, you
Sorry,
can go.
I should have given that to you. Either of you, you're both founders.
We are
can go.
co-founders. Look, it was just one of, I think, you know, we were talking off camera. It's just one of those things where, you know, I was into F1. I've been into F1 since I was 6. I think 20 19, I want to say, I discovered I was on a long trip somewhere on a coach, I think to Manchester. Don't ever do that. Horrible. But I was like, oh, I wonder if there are any F1 podcasts. You know, I've kind of gone through all the podcasts I normally listen to in hip hop and so forth. And then I kind of listened to like one that was horrible. Then I listened to another one that was horrible, and then I listened to another one. You know, I'll always say it. You know, I'll pick them up every time. Missed Apex, and I remember being like, "Oh, this is incredible! This is like a bunch of guys who are clearly fans of the sport. It's an independent podcast, and you know, for the first time, I felt like I was interacting with people, even though I was just listening about a sport that I'd watched in isolation for so long. So, at that point, I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. Didn't really get around to it until 2021, which is when I asked Tandy randomly, because she was the only one who used to reply to my tweets when I used to tweet about it on my Twitter account, and then it just it's gone from there. I guess Tandy can take it from there, but yeah, that's how it started, and then
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
quite
quick
similar.
stop.
Hang on, sorry, Tony. That's quite similar to how me and Steve started this podcast. He would tweet, and
Is
I'd
it?
be the only one that replied to those tweets. The problem was they were
Really?
from the Lucky Sons account, and I was like,
Sometimes I
It
reply your
was a very
tweets.
small audience of one. You do.
yeah, you do.
You do.
Sorry, I
I love
interrupted
your
you,
tweets.
Sandy. Go on.
Yeah, Quick Stop F1 is a vision, a safe space, I'd say. It helps Black and brown people and allies and those who want to kind of just have a safe space around the sport that is obviously so filled with misogyny, racism. I could name it all. And through that, we've built such a beautiful community, I think, of people who just want the best for their sport. We've built like a team. We have Tasha, Mario, and Chris. This is another exclusive. I'm going to give you guys an exclusive. Okay? This is something I have never said in any interview. Vanity Fair, Nylon, won't say it. This is an exclusive for you guys. You gave me an exclusive, I'll give you an exclusive. Quick Stop F1 is the greatest F1 podcast ever. That's the exclusive. Period.
True.
I should have something for that, but I don't want to go near. I don't want to go near my media board anymore. I'm the judge.
Yeah, if it's anything like what you've got before, just leave it. It's fine. But
Yeah, sure.
we're all friends here. We're all friends.
But you're right, Tandy. But you are right.
Yeah.
And we don't say this just because you're on with us now. Is that I think you were probably the first F1 podcast that I listened to. And there was a reason for that. It's because you were the pair of you were completely different to everything else that was out there, and that goes back to what you were saying, Yasha. This is boring. This is boring. All of a sudden, you come across one that you thought was really interesting. I think tonally, I think you've got it down to a T. I love the shout, and I love the just the whole vibe and almost chaos of it. But the chaos of it makes it feel real. When we're surrounded by people not trying to be real, trying to be something that they're not, you've got Nyasha and Tandy just keeping it real all the time, and obviously everybody else that now appears on Mario and Tasha, etc., etc. So I think that accolade, you're right to give yourself that accolade, Tandy, because F1 is
I honestly
the best podcast out there.
I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and that's not to disrespect any other podcast. I'm obviously going to be biased, but I honestly think our model is so natural. It's so chill. And I see it in other people's product, and I see it in other people's tweets. I see it in other people's vision for their kind of platforms. And I'm always so happy to help other people, especially women in F1. Like, we carry this whole thing. I'm so sorry. Women in F1 are the best. And I like that our space is the most safest off spaces for women. And as you guys have seen, you guys have been to our shows. It is literally majority women. Where else do you see that? Where else do you get that? And everyone feels safe. And it's always people who come on their own as well. We're safe. We're fine. And I love that.
That's the thing that's hit me the hardest when I've turned up to your events. There are people that come on their own.
Yeah.
And that's brave. I don't think I could ever. I've turned up to things on my own, not live podcasts. But when you turn up to an event on your own, it's pretty awkward.
Yeah.
But
It's
there is no
commitment.
awkwardness. There is no awkwardness when you step foot into that room on your live events.
But it also shows the commitment that they've got to your community as well.
Yeah.
Was it Rue? She came all the way down from Sheffield, and She was the one that was pointing at you, Andy, at the end, going, "Don't disappoint me."
You disappoint me, Andy. I'm be on the front line trying to step on you. So don't disappoint me. I believe in you guys. I believe in you guys 100%. 110, 120, 130. I believe in you guys. So if you disappoint me,
I love you. Don't want that. Don't want that.
I know you.
It's brilliant. She's brilliant.
I saw that. Yeah, it's really humbling. Honestly, you know, we did the show in America, and you know, to have, you know, we had someone come from Chicago just that night, just to come to the show. We had people drive from San Antonio for 2 hours, 2.5 hours,
That's crazy.
just to come.
That's crazy.
You know,
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's we're really lucky. We're really lucky.
I think Andy introduced me to your show. It's got to be at least over a year ago when he and I first started talking about what's become Lucky Sons, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a listen." And I remember exactly where I was. I was in the park walking my dogs, and I put my earpods in. I remembered them, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" And I think that kind of creative chaos that Andy and I talk about, I was like, this is not anything I've ever heard in F1 before. It's air horns and shouting and sometimes awkward pauses, and I was like, has my phone stopped working? And you know, there's an element of, it's not polished, and it's the beauty of it, right? It's because it's people talking how people talk about a sport that is so very often stiff and conservative. This is a bit of a fluff piece, what I'm about to say, but it's become part of my weekly ritual. You know, when there's a race season, I look forward to Monday, when usually, sometimes, hopefully, the podcast drops, and you know, it's kind of it's
no, hopefully,
when one of you's ill.
Yeah, he got his link back. I respect it.
I love this episode. Yes, circle of trust. We all hee ha ha.
No, but you were ill, and it was like, shit, there isn't one. So I also listened to the quality reviews as well with Mario and fucking hell, I've forgotten the name now.
Tasha.
Brilliant.
Tasha,
yeah. And I've been talking to Chris. I think, is it Chris that does your editing?
Yeah.
Or some of the editing? He's brilliant. I've never met him, but he and I've chatted on Instagram because, he's just a really nice guy. And it's that sense of community as well that I think what we're doing with Lucky Sons has kind of opened me up to this whole world of people who just, you know, they're so passionate. And I think that's to your live shows as well. You know, I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be fun, but we met some really amazing people.
Yeah, I think it kind of dispels this notion. I think Tandy was talking about the fact that it's majority women. So I'll give you a really good story. The place that we had the last one in, my best friend is the manager of that pub. He's known me since I was 12 years old. He's seen me do food content. He's seen me do stand up. He's seen me do like all kinds of creative things. And he stood there.
Drop out.
Yeah. And then. Oh, okay. Well, you know, this is the circle of trust is now closing in on me.
Stand-up comedian. I want to see that footage.
No, you don't. You don't
Sorry, go on.
Tandy, have you got any of that footage? You must have some of that.
I wish.
Drop that in. Steve,
I wish. I would drop assets every single day on this man's head. I wish I had them clips.
Hang on. I'll make you feel better, Nasha. Wait.
Nice. Here we go.
I'll just fade them out.
Hard.
Sorry.
DJ.
Right, okay. We're back in the room.
What was your best? I don't know. I'm pointing down to the screen. That's where Nasha is. So Nasha, what was your best sort of, I don't know, joke?
Oh, don't do that.
I don't have a best
Please.
joke.
Do that.
No,
That's
come
not-
on.
Please
that's
let
not
him tell the
outstanding.
joke.
I don't have a best joke, but
Sorry, you
What was the
you were
funniest
going to tell
moment?
us.
What was the funniest
Shut up a
moment?
minute. Shut up a minute. He was going to tell us a nice story.
I'll tell you
He was
the
gonna
nice
tell us a good
story, but the funniest, what I will tell you is that I got to the semi-final of a massive competition. So You Think You're Funny. I got to perform in Edinburgh.
What?
The person who won I keep forgetting his name, but the person who won my heat is like the curly blonde haired guy that's on So You Think You're Funny. I think he got done for cheating on his missus on.
Yeah,
on,
he did. I know who
on
exactly.
Strictly.
Yeah, so Yeah,
Walsh something.
Sean Walsh. So something like that, or Joe Walsh. He won my heat. I think in the finals, like Doc Brown, the American lady with like red lipstick, so I can't remember her name. It was like
Yeah.
I was never going to win that competition ever, ever. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you got to semis. That's pretty good, man.
That's
it was never gonna
fantastic.
happen. All that to say,
I was once on. Go on.
I know what you're going to say. Let's get the footage of that.
What? What was it?
Do we have it? Do we have it?
The
we have-
footage is there.
My mum has it. My mum is the only person who has it.
Of what?
Yeah, spill.
I was once on Britain's Got Talent.
What were you?
What?
Yeah.
How long ago?
I was in year 8 or 9.
Were you singing?
What was your talent?
Of course I was. I had vocals. Ask anyone who used to know me. I had vocals.
What do you mean had? Where have they gone?
I just don't sing anymore. I now criticize people
But you
singing.
can. I see.
So,
All right.
is this on YouTube? Or,
I'm back.
Yeah.
No.
Do we know? Yasha, how do we get to Tandy's mum? within the next 24 hours, so we can drop it into the edit.
I will get his clips up.
No.
Everyone's just like laughing, but I was like, my signal.
Googling.
Seconds, so I've just come back to everyone just laughing
right.
at me, and I'm
It's-
like, what's
It's
going
fine.
on
We'll just
here?
carry on.
I'm so sorry about the technical issues on my side. If you guys, you've got a big edit tonight. Apologies.
I haven't.
We just
Can you
expected
guys
you to be a
hear
bit
me
more
then?
professional.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Anyway, I don't know if we're past the point of me finishing that story or
No, finish your story.
essentially,
We might have lost him, guys.
was- I
Tandy, can
tried
you,
to-
whilst we go through this technical
me?
difficulty, can you sing for us? Can you just fill it in with a
No,
little
I
bit
will
of
not
singing?
sing. Steve, can you
Yeah,
rap
Nasha, we
for
can
us?
see you,
Light in the
hear you,
mood.
mate.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Lucky son.
Do you know what? Do you know what I will say about that? Right? It's indicative of having fuck all budget and wanting to use
Stop,
something
Mo. It's
and
fucking
using.
creative moaning about budget again.
So sorry.
Essentially, long story short, he had never seen anything like that in his life. Like, he was so like, he couldn't believe the profile of the people that were there. He couldn't believe how passionate everyone was. He couldn't believe how young everyone was, and the diversity, but also just, the fact that they were women. And I think for an outsider coming into Quickstop, the numbers are the last thing left. The numbers will get there. We have everything else in place that every other F1 platform would want, which is a community who are knowledgeable, passionate, and love us and will defend us and support us in everything we do. And that's why I'm not like, the numbers will be numbers and they'll come. But I'd rather us get to 10,000 subscribers and have what we have multiplied by 3 or 4 than have 1 million subscribers and couldn't sell out a venue if we tried to do a live show, couldn't sell merch, people not really caring about us, and having to have all of our revenue based on the views we get, and therefore having to, be even more outlandish, do even more wild stuff. And like, we just get to be ourselves because people love us for us. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about Quickstop F1 from our point of view anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quality, not quantity, as well, right?
Yeah, 100%, especially
It
when
really
you're
is.
ill. So, there's no quantity.
It really is. I mean,
look,
there was times when we were literally in Austin and people were like coming up to us like, oh my God, like Quick Stop F1, you guys are a bad man podcast. How many people get people come up to them and say F1 and bad man in the same sentence? Only us. Only us. Okay. And I'm happy with that.
I think as well, and I'm happy to sound really stupid asking this, but there might be plenty of people that do these live shows, but it doesn't seem, I don't know of many, and they don't do it in the way that you do it. That's what makes it also really different. Where did that come from? Like the idea of just going, you know what, we need to come out from behind the screen
Do you
and
know
put this
what?
into a live venue.
That's not a stupid question at all. Nyasha used to do events anyway. As we said, he's our beauty school dropout. He used to do events anyway. So he has experience with the ticket staff and kind of finding venues in London. And since he was obviously a guy who was on stage most of the time anyway, he isn't too shy of going on stage. I actually wonder if Nyasha ever questioned, is this girl actually okay on stage? Or if not, do you know what I mean? But we did it. And it was literally the best thing ever. And we were like, we are going to do this literally every time we want to, because it's not even, it doesn't even feel like a chore. It just feels so natural. It feels like something you do on a Sunday. We do it specifically on a Sunday. You sit there, you have your roast dinner and you watch Formula One. But why not do it like a safe space with the community?
It wasn't even my idea to do it. Like, you know, I in my mind, I didn't think we were at that point for us to be able to do that. And Tandy said, I think we were coming up to 50 episodes. And Tandy said, we should celebrate 50 and do a live podcast. And then I was like, okay, like, you know, just kind of like, all right, happy wife, happy life. I'll do this and we'll see if it comes out. But I wasn't confident at all.
And it was literally the best
tickets
thing
out.
we've ever done.
Yeah, 100%.
The best thing. We used to do it, if anyone used to come to our first few shows, we used to do it at
Cavendish Arms.
Cavendish Arms.
I love that.
Cavendish Arms. Best staff. They were so cool. They were actually used to doing comedy shows. So when we came along, they were like, okay, this is different. They used to let us cook our own pizzas. And they used to, like, the staff used to literally sit and watch the show and be like, oh my God, guys, this is so cool. So shout out the Cavendish, because they were so nice to us. And then obviously we've moved on to larger pastures with the Everyman Cinema thing. But we'll never forget our humble roots. That was literally the best. Just the small rooms that we used to pack with like 50 odd people.
It's funny you should say about a Sunday lunch though, because I, not so much now, but the minute you said that, you know, like kids get a bit restless, you know, halfway through a roast dinner. But I used to just eat as quickly as I could because I knew that they put the F1 on, and then I used to get to go and watch it. And so I always associate F1 with really good gravy.
Yeah, with Sundays.
A good roast chicken. But it was though. It was Sunday. It was Sunday roast and watching Formula One.
Grand Prix gravy.
Grand Prix gravy.
Maybe that's what we call this. That's what we call this.
Grand Prix gravy. That's actually really good. That could be fun. That could be
on the record. On the record.
No, but on the record is bellissimo.
I'd love to do that one day, like a Sunday roast supper club / F1 watch along thing like that. Definitely up there.
He enjoys numerous things juggling.
But it's quite a nice segue into my next question, which is when did both of you, Tandy, if you go first, when did you discover F1 and how and why?
Mine wasn't even later on. I literally got into Formula One when Nyasha did, when I was 6, because I have a bunch of motor petrol head brothers and my family are all metal motor heads. So my dad used to take me to like MotoGP, motocross, all that when I was like very young. Wow. So I was always aware of wheels. I don't know if I was paying attention to what was going on around me, but when, as you said, like everyone affiliates Formula One with a Sunday. And when I think of like my childhood, I think my mum ironing, my brothers and I watching Formula One, and my dad in the garden. And that is just how it's grown since then. So like even when I was tweeting about it on the timeline and no one else was replying me apart from Nyasha, it was just kind of something I was saying, and just it was normal to me. But even through that, I didn't even realize very few black people were into Formula One. I genuinely thought it was a normal thing.
What about you, Nyasha?
I mean, honestly, you know, I've watched it since I was 6, and then I would say like my mum kind of recognized that early, and she used to buy me like a massive punnet of strawberries from Costco. And that would be like my Sunday treat. So I would like just munch on some strawberries and watch Michael Schumacher or some, like, obviously I'm very old. So that's when I was 6.
That's pretty posh.
Like, but I mean, I grew up in Shenley Berry Cottages, Hertfordshire.
We've got
so,
Steve
yeah,
with his
I'm
gravy, and you're eating strawberries.
Yeah, look,
Strawberries and gravy.
I've never shied away from it. Listen to my voice, for fuck's sake.
Ooh,
So
there we go.
Maybe that's what we
I
call
can't
it.
hide
Strawberries and gravy.
Hertfordshire is in
Strawberries
me.
and gravy.
So that is pretty much my brand. All I was going to say was, you kind of look at certain, like on Twitter, people be like, oh, like Black Twitter. And people think like it's an actual thing that you have to download. It's like a different program of Twitter, but it's just like this Narnia kind of thing that you just have to kind of be part of. That's what F1 Twitter was like for me. Like I've been on Twitter for so long. I had no clue F1 Twitter existed. I start a podcast, then all of a sudden, like there's all of these Black people, all of these women, all of these people of color who like F1, and I had no clue. And that was like this mind-bending thing, like, oh my God, there's so many people just like me who watch this sport. When I watch it on TV, there's no one like me. When I look in the stands, I couldn't really see that either. But I look online and there's such a strong community of us. And I think that was like really, it's probably two phases to my F1 watching life, obviously before the podcast and after the podcast. And after the podcast, even though it's been only like 3 years, it's been significantly richer because of the community that we've been able to kind of cultivate and find on F1 Twitter.
And provide that space that Tandy was talking about, that kind of safe space that is, is for everyone, but it's also, for predominantly for them to kind of, find the community that looks and sounds like them, right? That enjoys the same thing that you enjoy. And like you said, those live events, you got people coming from all over the country specifically to come to your live event.
Yeah.
And on their own.
Yeah.
Which I think is remarkable, actually.
I think so too.
I can't really think of something off the top of my head that is equivalent to that. I say this with the best love in the world, just to come to a pub to watch a Formula One race. Effectively, that's what it is. But it's amazing.
Look,
But that's the
shit
thing, right?
sell
People,
out as well.
people
That's the
Yeah,
thing.
we sell out every time. On period, every time we're gonna sell out, and I respect
people
that.
associate going to the pub to watch football, but they don't associate going to the pub to watch a Formula One race. And there you are, you two are doing it.
Yeah,
No, exactly, and that's what my friend was saying as well. Like it's a weird thing for people to be in the pub. He was like, they had people downstairs wondering what was going on upstairs, to the point where they had to put the F1 on downstairs so people could have some idea of like what the noise coming up from upstairs was during the race. Because obviously something would happen, George would come on the radio, people would be like, "Wah!" And be like, people downstairs be like, what is going on? What is this event upstairs? So it just kind of shows, again, you're probably the same, you come to events. I would spend time screaming at the TV like, to see a bunch of other people have those same emotions as you is just like the most affirming thing ever. It's awesome. Like, it really is.
Yeah, my wife definitely doesn't understand me, and I'm not going to go near 2021. But when I didn't watch it live, I watched it a few hours later, and when I did, I actually ripped the t-shirt off my body. I was so fucking angry. But it wasn't like a Hulk moment, and it wouldn't have impressed fucking anybody. Right? But it was like, and she came in, she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I can't begin to explain to you what's just happened.
Not here, Steve. The kids are there.
Trust me, that was never on the cards, but not at that point. I don't think I was probably looking my sexiest. Should we put it that way? But look, you two have more recently been to a race than we have, and I want to come on to that in a minute. But this is now that I've read it, it's a really broad question. What's good and bad about F1 as a sport from your perspective as fans, but also as content creators?
I'd say the racism, the misogyny. I feel like I'm repeating myself. However, yeah, I'd say the racism, the misogyny, but also just how the FIA do not give a hoot about us. I think that's the best thing. Best thing about Formula One, I've actually got an article that I've written, which is coming out next week about this. And I think what's the best thing about Formula One, even in a season like this year's season where it's been absolute rubbish and it's been particularly quite boring, what's kept Formula One uplifted is literally the community. It's the content creators, it's the social media peoples, it's the people who are keeping the conversation going and making reactive content, such as us, such as people like Denny, who are constantly just keeping the brand relevant, making fan cams, making memes, and like giving the grid a personality, basically. So I think that's the best thing about Formula One.
There's a real pressure to that, isn't there? Being able to keep that conversation on, just jumping on what you think is relevant and then turning it into something sort of not newsworthy, but something that you can make fun of, something that you can make content out of. And that's a real pressure on your shoulders for that.
As a creator, it's pressure, but I think as a creator, it's not so much pressure, because if you know reactive content, I think Formula One seems quite difficult, but it's so easy because Formula One is literally everything. You can relate it to everything: a drinks brand, a watch brand, fashion, music. You can put Formula One in anywhere. So I think overthinking Formula One and letting it go over your head and thinking, oh my God, like this is such a niche, but also not considering all the advertisements and all the international deals around it. It's so simple. It's literally the easiest. If it was ATP tennis, I'd understand. Tennis is hard because where do you even start? Yeah. If it was basketball, let me not even go into the other sports, but ATP, maybe even golf, that would be difficult. But Formula One literally sticks its finger in.
I was going to say, in all honesty, it's not to disrespect our friends who've got a tennis podcast, but like, I think it's one of those where, like, it's about the narratives more than the technical aspect of the sport, or the, of course we're going to go into the minutiae of the race, but let's talk about the stories that kind of has, and let's talk about how the emotions that has. And I think that's always been our thing, is that, look, we're not going to get into the technical things. I love F1. I have a bit of an aversion to the technical side of things because I don't find that very entertaining. I'll put it in if I need to explain something, but I don't want to have a whole podcast dedicated to like the technical aspects or whatever. And I think the reason why we're so successful, and the reason why it's not hard to make content, is because we just focus on the stories and the narratives, and that's what brings people in. That's why Drive to Survive is so successful. That's why the social media is so successful. We're not tweeting about this incredible overtake because of the overtake that it is. We're tweeting about it because of the people involved in the narratives that creates. And I think the more that happens, the more you tap into the emotional side of sport rather than the technical side of sport, the more engaged a fan base and the more engaged a person you'll have. It's entertainment at the end of the day. And, of course the entertainment side might have gone a bit too far, but I think, I think that's why we're so good, and that's why we do as well as we do.
Do you think
that's either a dig at Las Vegas opening ceremony or my drum beat that I've had on, but I'm letting it slide.
Never the drum beat.
Do you think the teams have a responsibility to tell that narrative? And do you think and if you do,
I think so.
That responsibility, do you think they do a good enough job at doing it?
I think they do have a responsibility because, bottom line, the people who are like cheering them on in the grandstands are fans. So they are the community. They're the people with the iPhones, with the smartphones, with social media, who go then and regurgitate everything they saw and everything they love about their team. I do think teams have a responsibility. I think certain teams do it better than others. But as I always say, I feel like in Formula One in 2023, it's definitely about different teams have different personalities. There's the teams who are very old school, and there's the teams who are trying to move into the new school. And then there's the teams who are, super cool and have always been cool. Do you know what I mean? There's teams who can do it perfectly well, but there's also teams that need to get out of their old agendas, completely like scrape off their traditions and kind of move into the new if they want to move into other forms of communities, etc. I think that's why you guys are so different, because you guys take a stance that's incredibly Gen Z focused compared to a lot of the teams, if not all the teams on the grid.
I keep on banging this drum. I just find everything that's put out by the teams very generic and very samey. So it's quite interesting you say that there are some teams that it's quite interesting you say, Tandy, that there are some teams that are good at it, some teams that are bad at it, some teams that are stuck onto their heritage, some teams that want to be sort of a bit more sort of forward thinking. Now, this might just be because I'm part of a new team wanting to get onto the grid, but I don't see any of that. So maybe am I missing it, or am I being too?
I mean, do you know what? You're
harsh on them?
right. I'm not gonna lie. As Formula One fans, we are scraping the barrel. You know, when you have a little bit of Vaseline left, and you've got false nails on, and you're literally trying to scrape the barrel. That's what we are doing in this
I have
sport.
that
So yeah,
problem
we
all the
are just
time.
happy from the bare minimum. It's right. It's honestly, it's like when you're dating a guy and he might took my car out for petrol, put £10 in it. It's the bare minimum, babe. He's supposed to do that. You know what I mean? So, but not £10, obviously. Yeah, you're very right in saying that it's not that obvious, but it's definitely there sometimes. And I think there's a lot of teams who are like,
I think it's
we are so forward facing, and then something, you know, a moral situation will happen in Formula One, like it does every 2 weeks, and they take the worst side of history.
Yeah, everything just feels a little bit staged and generic, and they copy each other. One team will do something that the other team jumps on, and that, from a creative, I would find that frustrating if I was a creator.
Like writing a statement, they all just copied and pasted into their own things today.
You know there was a Zoom. There was a Zoom this afternoon.
Yeah. There was a
Teams
Zoom
Zoom,
all
yeah,
afternoon.
Teams
They were
Zoom.
literally
One lawyer.
told Teams meeting. People missed their lunch break for that statement.
And we've all got to use the same font.
Yeah. Sorry, Nashi, you look like you're burning to say something.
No. I'm honestly the same thing. In all honesty, it's just it's mostly Lewis, to be honest. And I think, you know, Lewis, in terms of social media strategy, has probably got the most forward-thinking social media strategy and most like relatable social media strategy. But you've got other people coming up like, you know, Lando, and you know, look, Alonso's social media is great as well. So I think the drivers are doing a better job than the teams. The teams are catching up. Ferrari have done a great job in the last couple of years.
I think even with the drivers as well, though, like there's always a team behind you saying, post a TikTok Alonso, put a story up Alonso. So you take everything with a pinch of salt, I guess.
Some of those feel very manufactured. The one that I like, Lando does some funny shit. He is literally just a kid gaming and posting whatever, and but a lot of it feels very staged and formulaic and a bit like it just feels awkward.
I agree.
This is the danger of a sport being reliant on corporate sponsorship to basically to operate. This is that the teams are constantly live in fear of getting that phone call from a sponsor saying take that down, or you know, you're in breach of your contract here because of what you said. And that's kind of worrying in today's world of where we're supposed to be free to be able to express ourselves however we want. They've got this thing sitting on their shoulder, sort of peering in, seeing what they're typing, seeing what they're about to what caption they're about to upload. And I think sometimes that takes away the character or the individuality of that driver or that team, because they constantly live in fear.
I think straddling those two worlds of corporate and social and community building, I guess. And, you know, like I said, we're quite lucky. We don't have that at the moment, so we can be as whatever about it. I'm sure if in the future that changed, we would have to kind of look at how we done it. But I guess then again, that, you know, begs the question of, we're a small kind of platform. We have the choice about who we can take money from. A lot of these F1 teams don't have that choice of, you know, turning down someone with X values because they want to do Y, right? You know, they have to take as much money as possible because it's such an exorbitantly expensive sport. So yeah, it's a tough one for the teams for sure.
Sorry, there's an argument to that, to say that the brands are coming on board to the team because of the audience that the team has got, and the team knows how to speak to that audience. Now, all of a sudden, if the brand is asking the team to flip how they would traditionally engage with audiences, then it's sort of, all of a sudden they're not being legitimate to their audience. They're basically being fed what they can and can't do by the sponsor. And I think that's one of the things that we're lucky to be able to do as Lucky Sons, is that we don't have any sponsors. We have people in the background very, very interested in supporting a Lucky Sons entity on the grid. They get to see what Lucky Sons is before they consider really sort of signing on the dotted line. It's our attitude and it's our tone now that will hopefully bring in the audiences that we are looking to bring in. Consequently, if you want to come on board, you've got to accept the fact that that Lucky Sons is exactly how Lucky Sons is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit like, I don't know if it's a new thing, but I noticed it in the last couple of races, and it might have been there for the whole season, but I just hadn't paid attention or I was too bored. But Aston Martin seemed to have got a big TikTok deal. I don't know if that's new or not, but I do pity, their team that looks after social media, because I'm sure they're probably of a certain age and fluent in TikTok, right? But even that, you can just see it's like, right, we've got TikTok, so go make some TikTok stuff and do it like TikTok does it, and like all the other people on TikTok do it like TikTok, do a TikTok. And a lot of the content I've been seeing is a bit like, I can feel as a creative, I can feel the team going, oh, fucking hell, what are we going to do today? Right, put the camera on top of like the pit stop thing and get all the guys in. And you can see all the engineers are kind of like, yeah, okay, fucking hell, all right, we've got to go outside. They probably got a shitload of things, a list of things they got to do. And now they got this, come and do a TikTok. And I get it. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it just feels, oh God, I can just hear the size. I want to talk about Austin a little bit, your trip to Austin. How was your F1 race weekend experience from a kind of fan perspective?
So, Austin, I think, was great and absolute fuckfest. So, respectfully.
Don't worry,
I'm just incredibly aware that it's like a massive fucking cash grab on everyone. Everything's so expensive when you get there. I mean, Austin's an expensive city anyway. I'm not even going to get into what I saw.
The veg. The vegetables.
Me for life.
Veggate.
I just like, it's so expensive. I don't
Yasha was like surviving on tacos.
Give us an example. Give us an example of the expensive veg, because I'm curious.
500 grams of baby potatoes, which would cost £1 here, were like $4.50. I remember looking at some leeks for like $5 for like 2. I remember onions cost me like $3. Like it was
insane.
And I remember thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do a barbecue. I'm gonna treat the guys to this and the other. Or we're just gonna fucking have some food in the house. And I literally might as well have just gone to a Michelin-starred restaurant in the UK for the price of like filling up my fridge. Anyway, Austin's expensive.
Yeah.
The race itself, a bottle of beer, a can of beer is like $13. A meal is at least $16. The tickets obviously expensive. It's hot. The queues for the drinks are mad. I think a bottle of water's like at least $3-4. So it's just one of those things where the best part of being at the race was being with the community, and watching the race was cool, but the screen opposite the main grandstand only goes up to 1 decimal place. So when they had qualifying and there's 3 drivers separated by less than a tenth of a second, I had no clue how close they were, because it just said 0.0 like gap to each other. So I didn't even have big enough screens to put the whole timing screen on. There's nowhere to go for shade if you're in general attendance. Like, you will just be suffering in 34 degree heat. And I just think, from a health and safety point of view, I saw people passed out. I saw people falling asleep in the
which is really useful
bars because it was so hot. So, and all I'm going to say is, if you're going to go to an F1 race, go with your friends or someone you love, and I would say do it because you really want to go to that particular city or place. Because I will be very honest with you, I don't think the event itself is worth the amount of money you spend there in the slightest, to be honest. But going to the F1 in freaking Japan and then getting to go to Tokyo afterwards, yes, that's a banging trip. Getting to go to Barcelona even, getting to go to Hungary and go, like, these are incredible destinations. But what I would say is, don't just go and try and make the most of you can in the city that you're in, because the F1, for me, I don't think is the highlight of the weekend. Now, I don't know how Tandy felt about it, but that's that's what I came away with from Austin, to be honest.
I agree with Nyasha. It was quite expensive. Yeah, I definitely think if you are going to go to a race and it wants to be like your first one, just be aware that it is quite expensive for the average person. It's not supposed to be for like working class people. It's supposed to be very exclusive, which is something I really do not like about Formula One, how they like to segregate everyone's expenses. But it was a wonderful experience. Absolutely loved it. Probably one of the best things that happened to me in a while. And I loved it. And I think I will definitely be returning to Austin. I think Austin's a great place to do for a race. Try like go to a place that you're really willing to enjoy that city. Is
Like
what I'd say.
Silverstone.
You know what? Everyone was like,
At least they got a campsite.
Everyone was like, "Oh, would you love to go to Silverstone?" No, I would not like to go to Silverstone. I would not like to. It's like
I'm never paying for a Silverstone
never in my
ticket,
life.
ever.
Why would I do that? It's like asking me, "Would you like to go on holiday to freaking London?" No, I would not like to go on holiday to London. No, when I could go to the Bahamas
Probably for the same price.
for the same price.
Respectfully.
Andy, were you going to say something?
No, because I concur with what Tandy just said about the it's not for the man on the street. Now, there's an argument to say that all
Or
sport,
woman.
there's an argument to say that all sport should be for the person on the street, right? Because that's the biggest audience. But then they're still filling out these, they're still maxing out the capacity of these circuits, and so it's really difficult to sort of bang that drum, isn't it? Yeah, make it more inclusive for the people that can't afford £1,000 weekend, because you can't take your kids, you can't take your wife. You're paying $20, you're paying $20 or 20 quid for a hot dog, or whether or not it's nice, it doesn't matter. It's still 20 quid for a burger or whatever. And so I think it's really difficult, because I'm absolutely the same as you. I don't like this separation within Formula One. You know, I've said it many, many times. I don't like the idea of VIP areas. I don't like the idea of GA areas. I think it should all be merged and everybody should have a wonderful time together. But in sport, and in the wider sport as well, we've got used to this thing of experiences. The experience has got to be the best experience you possibly can. And unfortunately, people often associate experiences with VIP areas. And I think that sort of tends to dumb down the experience for people, because you're not watching it how you should be watching it. It's like going to the O2 and watching a concert in a box. You know, really, the best experience is down on the floor where everybody is, just jumping up and down, getting elbows in the face. The problem is that, you know, people are paying this exorbitant amount of money, and so therefore it will just continue. You know, from a commercial point of view, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think from a sporting and an audience point of view, I think there's a lot wrong with it.
Same.
Well, I think that they've built these walls, right? Yes, I know World Endurance Championship isn't anywhere near the size of Formula One, but they manage it. You know, there is a lot more access for fans. You know, talking about communities, that series in itself, the community is way more linked to and close to the action, the teams, the cars before races. It is possible. It's just that F1 drinks its own Kool-Aid. It's like, we're the pinnacle of motorsport, so they behave like it. And everyone, I think, in those ivory towers, they're in a very different bubble to the rest of humanity.
Yeah.
And the season that we've just had, it's been a little bit arduous. It's reminded me of kind of the Schumacher era, or even Vettel when he was at Red Bull. But, you know, I was thinking about it, because even Lewis had, and I'm not here to diss Checo. I think he's in a very difficult seat in that team. But even Sir Lewis Hamilton had a worthy rivalry in Rosberg. There was a fight for that championship in 2016. And so although there was a dominance of Mercedes, there were still races that you could kind of get behind as a fan. And I think with that dominance comes the risk of Formula One losing its popularity. And Nasha, you made a really good point that, you know, numbers are different, you know, in terms of content creators, that there's been a shift in numbers. Now, is that because people are dropping off and they're just losing interest because it's not quite as exciting as 2021? I don't know. Do you think F1 is in danger of saturating itself?
100%. What I will say, sorry, about the race, which I did love, was that all of these divisions that you see on F1 Twitter aren't there at the race. People are there with their Red Bull merch, their Mercedes merch, their Ferrari merch. Everyone's just walking around having fun with each other. We had loads of fun talking to some Checo fans and so forth. Like, you know, the divisions you see online are nowhere near as deep as in person, aside from the people that were getting into a fight at the Mexican Grand Prix at the very next race. But I think for me, in terms of saturation, the saturation in a few ways. I think one, there's saturation of, I think people saw the content market in 2021 at the peak, and I think you saw a raft of like the big money people coming. I think, you know, you had like Sky come in, BBC came in, Donut came in, all of these media places came in. So in terms of like the podcast market and the content market, there's definitely even more content than there was. We were a bit of a novelty in 2021, and now, you know, I wouldn't say we're even like the most outlandish F1 podcast out there, to be honest. So, you know, I think there's that, but there's also, I think for me, there's just like a saturation. I think they've got to a point where I think Drive to Survive has done what it's done, and from there, there's going to be marginal gains of return from it now. You know, we have to remember when Drive to Survive really blew was after the 2020 season. So after the 2019 season, 2020 was delayed because of COVID. Everyone was at home. Drive to Survive came out. Everyone watched it. And then F1 was the first sport to come back online. So everyone had watched this series. And then you're stuck in your house. Oh, there's F1. I can get into this series that I just watched. So obviously the 2020 season and then 2021 with like everything that happened just took it to the moon. But without that sporting kind of side of it to maintain that, as well as the fact that there's only so many people who are going to watch Drive to Survive and get into the sport off the back of it every year. And you know, everyone pretty much knows about Drive to Survive now. I do think that they're going to have to, if they don't get the sporting side correct, you're going to see them continue to struggle to sell tickets at Vegas, struggle to sell tickets at Miami. Austin didn't sell out this year, no matter what they try and tell you. You know, we know because of the way that we got tickets and where we were sitting. These seats were not sold. So I think it's just one of those things where the sport needs to take a long, hard look at itself. All of the metrics say that social data is down, the content creators aren't making as much money, the races, some of them, the legacy races, of course, Silverstone will always sell out. Legacy places will always sell out. Sao Paulo, for example.
Talking earlier about, I feel sorry for whoever's going to edit this, which is me. I feel sorry for whoever's got to edit the Drive to Survive series for next year, because it's going to be some dull shit.
And I bet there's going to be loads of scenes like edit that out. Can't have said that. There's so much to edit out. Do we still need Drive to Survive about?
The behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, we all want to see Gunter swear. We all want to see what sort of rivalries there are, whether or not they're manufactured or not. It doesn't matter. We just want to be able to feel something. So I'll tell you what, Tandy, if tomorrow morning you woke up and you had a call from Liberty Media to take over from Domenicali, what do you do first?
My first action would be to completely review everybody in the current FIA body. I want thorough checks. I want dirt on them since they were 5 years of age. If he bit a kid in nursery, I want to know, right? And so I do all that. I do the whole revamp of them, man. And then I'd look at the grid. I'd give you guys a team, obviously.
Would we have to pay the dilution payment?
Of course you would. Of course you would. I'm running a business, not a charity. Anyway,
Are we talking 200 million or 600 million?
We'll negotiate that one, Steve. We'll negotiate that one. And then I'd look at all the countries that currently have races. I'd look at all the countries that have historic racetracks, who have the economy, who'd love to host a race. And I'd give them a chance. I'd get rid of Vegas for another 4 years. But yeah, definitely heavy on the FIA bit. Heavy on that. Honestly, like...
And you'd be doing that like quietly, right? Just go and get the dirt. I want the dirt. No, loud, public.
You can't hide from me. I want to install fear. It's gonna seem like a dictatorship at first, but democracy only thrives through me having that role.
Strong leadership. That's what it's.
Do you know what I mean?
You're talking about going back to the Bernie era. You sort of want to try and replicate sort of, you know, the dirt. He knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
You take it back there.
Yeah, kind of. Your words, not mine. Don't sue me.
Because there there is something quite romantic about that as well, isn't there?
Romantic, yeah. I mean, I was always into the villains as a child, so
What would you do if you got the call tomorrow? You got the call from Liberty. Dominical is out. You and Tandy are kind of in it.
Probably my internet connection first and foremost, and then probably just just engage with content creators and try and get as many young people on board as possible.
we love that.
Instead of FIA, you get a phone call from the FIA. You're stepping up to, run the FIA. Which African countries on your wish list to host the first African Grand Prix for the 30 years that it's been since we've had the last one?
South Africa. It has to be. It has to be South Africa. Sorry. Only. I think Yasha would say the same, South Africa, yeah.
You wake up tomorrow, Helmut Marko's been made redundant because, the hotel directing business is drying up. Christian Horner gives you a call because he needs your advice on who's going to replace Checo after Melbourne 2024. Who are you going to pick? I think it's the third race. Is it still the third race?
So I was thinking George Russell, but then I was thinking, would I want him to be like in that seat? And then I thought Oscar Piastri, but I don't want Oscar Piastri to ever be a second driver. I think he has potential to be a really good first driver.
Nasha mentioned the fight earlier in Mexico. I saw clips of a fight in the VIP area, Abu Dhabi, I think it was. And I know from conversations that we've had that I think you guys obviously get your fair share of abuse. How do you manage that toxicity?
I'm really good at online reactive content. I'm really good at it. I have a meme for everything. So a meme and a really good quick stop family behind me online. I'm cool. The block button. The block button. Solidly the block button.
But does it get to you?
It never gets to me. It never gets to me because Nyasha likes to delete all nasty comments before I see them and vice versa.
Normally I don't see it until like
Does it
2
get to
days later because of the internet. But when I do see it...
Does someone fax it to you?
Yeah, I just get like a teletext of it like 2 days later. When I do see it, I've got quite thick skin. I love it, to be honest. I'd rather if people felt passionately about the stuff that we said. And a lot of the time if people are saying those kinds of things, because we're talking about things which need to be said, or we're calling out things which need to be said, or we're just, being ourselves. And I'm not going to get mad at someone who's like not even showing their face online. I have a very lovely life. There's nothing that someone online can say to me that would make me feel particularly less than. So I love it. It just makes me want to make more content, to be honest. But it does, you have to take breaks. Otherwise, like, too much of the negativity can like impact you. So I do take breaks every now and then. And I have like a thing now where once something gets too many negative comments, I'll just mute it, out of sight, out of mind, to be honest.
Which actually brings me on to a nice way to maybe end it. What's coming up for Quick Stop F1 next year? What have you got kind of cooking? Is there anything you can talk about of things that you've got planned or
more shouting?
Excellent.
Better Wi-Fi. More.
You got a world tour planned, or
I wouldn't say a world tour, but we do want to go to other races, etc. Probably more live shows. Nyasha?
And will you do live shows at those races that you go to? That's hopefully a thing you'll do,
I think like
maybe.
I'd like to. Yeah, I think like there's just kind of evolution for sure, but there'll definitely be more live shows, more merch, more content, and just like Tanya says, more shouting, more us. To be honest.
It's a lot of work doing all this stuff. It's a lot of organization, a lot of research, and kind of putting stuff together. And you do it with such a frequency. I don't know. I haven't got a question. I think I was just saying that it's a lot. It's a lot of work, especially live shows, right?
Yeah, there is.
That's it.
No, there is. But again, when you love something, it doesn't feel like work. That's the thing, the opportunity to be in those rooms. We're really blessed to be able to do that, to have that love, to have that reception, to, as much as I take the piss out of it, like, seeing the reception Tandy gets and how much everyone loves her, and considering we literally started this just to chat shit into a microphone, and for everyone to have so much like affection for us is just like super humbling. So to be honest, it's one of those things where it is a lot of work to put together, but the payoff is just like beyond anything money can give you. To be honest, it's an incredible feeling. So definitely to be able to do as much of that next year as possible is definitely like high up there on the list of like priorities for next season.
Do you constantly to keep on making the content, or would it just be easier if it was just a sport that was just sort of performing on the track?
We don't plan anything. So
You don't have a script.
No, is that how it is? So you don't plan it. You must have discussions with each other
No,
about what
not
you're
at
going to
all.
discuss it. No,
we don't.
Sometimes me and Yasha won't even have spoken to each other for 2 weeks, and we'll just turn up and literally. That's why it's always so like when you see us laughing, we're genuinely laughing because we're like, oh my god, I can't believe you just said that, but I'm keeping it in. Let's just keep going. Like honestly, and we've come to a point where honestly, I know what Yasha's going to say before he even says it, and he knows what I'm about to say. Like we have synergy that we don't even speak over each other because we know what's coming. He will always give me a chance to talk. I'll always give him a chance to talk. Like honestly, we do not script anything.
I guess that sort of speaks volumes about your own sort of creativeness.
It's chemistry. And I think like you either have it or you don't. And I think some people who maybe try and emulate what we do, you can try to emulate that. But, you know, again, me and Tally didn't really have a proper conversation with each other until we started the podcast. It could have been so much worse. But it could have
been awful.
It could have been awful. But it's like I've got a little sister now and she's got like a brother. And it's like we're that dynamic of just knowing each other inside out. Is what makes the product so special, and that's why we don't have to sit down and be like, okay, shall we do this, shall we do this? It's just all natural, and I think that's why the live shows are so easy as well, because it's just the same thing we do, but just next to each other.
I'm not a natural performer. Obviously, Tandy is a singer and you're a stand-up comedian. So you've got it down to a T. It's very natural for you. But whereas normally I'm the guy that sits in the back of the room just sort of observing. And now I find myself having to talk on a podcast with Steve hosting.
I mean, you don't have
very
to.
Difficult.
We don't have to. We shouldn't. Maybe we shouldn't. What was it called again? Strawberries and gravy or something.
Don't knock it till you try it. No, you guys, and look, you guys should be really proud of what you're doing and what you're attempting to do. And I think, look, if you could have seen our faces after we met you for the first time, you know, for us to have that kind of recognition from people within the sport saying they listen to us, saying that, you know, they love what we do because of who we are, not because of what, you know, they think we should be or whatever. It was really important for us. You know, it really can't be understated. And I think you're onto such an amazing thing, and knowing, you know, having had the discussions with you guys and seeing what you guys are trying to do, I think it's just, if you're able to do it, it's going to be such an incredible thing for the sport, and I can't wait for everyone to see it.
When I went out for lunch with you two,
Thank you.
at that time, was it September 22? And I remember sort of saying the goodbyes, and Yasha, I think you sort of pulled Tandy to one side and said, right,
we're staying here.
Now, and I'm thinking, I'm walking off and they're doing this behind me.
So drunk that day.
We got
so drunk. I don't know if you remember, I had a ponytail. I didn't have that ponytail 2 hours later. Like, I literally took off the ponytail. Nyasha had to go on No Signal Radio and do a show. I've trekked all the way with Nyasha to No Signal Radio to do a show. I fell asleep on the couch. This is like 7 o'clock in the afternoon. I fell asleep on the couch. We were so drunk. We got
so drunk.
It was our lunch break as well. Like, we just didn't go back to work.
We just didn't go back to work.
That's amazing.
Literally didn't go back to work.
I'm pleased I had that effect on you.
I just want to say thank you.
But also,
Guys,
Steve,
I've got a roll.
play us out.
I'm going to send you this on a vinyl.
Hey!